Right now, the National Weather Desk, trouble in the tropics. Could a late season storm strike Florida again?
Our consensus is fairly in alignment as it heads over the Yucatan Peninsula before entering the Gulf of Mexico.
Wildfire worries. From New York City to New England and out west, dry conditions are fueling the flames.
We need a lot of rain, and we've just been getting some little rain showers here and there, and that's just not enough.
California communities are getting ready for winter's arrival. How can you put a price tag on the cost of climate change?
Those costs impact the bottom line for families, businesses, and local governments right now.
And how people are helping to monitor the bald eagle population.
How are they spreading out? How are their territories changing?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Tropical Depression 19 formed overnight. By the end of the day, it could be Tropical Storm Sara. And by this time next week, some models show it striking Florida's Gulf Coast. Meteorologist Jennifer Collins is tracking the storm for us this morning.
It's producing heavy rainfall across parts of Central America today. It will kind of meander in the Western Caribbean and near Central America here as we head through the end of this weekend into the weekend before eventually working its way towards the Yucatan Peninsula. That's on Tuesday, so not even entering the Gulf of Mexico until Tuesday into Wednesday. So still quite a bit of time to really track the system, determine what it's going to do once it enters the Gulf of Mexico. We do have a frontal boundary that will move into the southeast, so a turn to the northeast is anticipated. Depending on the timing of that turn, depending on what the system actually looks like as it enters the Gulf of Mexico, we'll kind of see what the system actually develops as. It could stay as a remnant low as it enters the Gulf of Mexico and just move over our area with enhanced rain chances through the middle of next week, or actually look like an organized system.
And meantime, Typhoon Usagi made landfall earlier today in the Philippines. It's expected to cause widespread flooding and landslides in the northern part of the island nation. Earlier in the day, it had 150 miles per hour wind, equal to maybe a Category A. And the wildfire along the New York-New Jersey border is still burning. It's already scorched 5,000 acres across both states. Officials say they are making headway on the fire, and it's now 50% contained. One major help was the addition of Chinook helicopters that were able to drop large amounts of water on those hard-to-reach areas. Both states now have burn bans in effect. And here's something you don't hear very often: a brush fire in Manhattan. It happened on the northern end of the island. The fire department sprayed water from the Harlem River to help battle those flames. No one was hurt. The unusually dry conditions are also raising concerns in New England. Allison LaPierre is in Maine with more.
We need a lot of rain, and we've just been getting some little rain showers here and there, and that's just not enough.
Maine is currently going through a drought, and concerns have risen in some rural towns where firefighters rely on what's known as dry hydrants, meaning they pull water from natural sources when there's not a city hydrant nearby.
Where these retention ponds are getting low, we're not getting the rain, and even, where we would maybe be able to pump out of like a lake or a stream, those sources are also low, and we can't get close enough to get the water out of them.
Gray's Assistant Fire Chief Peter Holmquist tells us the fires are growing faster and stronger because of high winds and dry conditions.
Some towns in this area do not have a hydrant system, so we just have to go further and further to get the water, and because of the fire dangers, fires are spreading quicker and quicker.
Incredibly dry season right now. If you go by any of the streams or ponds, even the fire ponds in the area, most all of them are dry. We haven't had any appreciable amount of rain. With that being said, we have dry conditions, and then on top of the dry conditions, we also have the windswept conditions that we had to face here today with this fire.
Holmquist tells us the best way for you to help reduce and prevent the spread of fires is to clean up the leaves, debris, and brush in your yards.
In Nevada, fire officials are warning that despite cold temperatures and snow in some areas, the wildfire season there is not over. Sophia Lincoln reports strong winds and a lack of moisture are still major issues.
On Veterans Day, some Reno residents were surprised to receive alerts to evacuate due to the Callahan fire near Mount Rose, especially with the snow and chain controls in place within miles of the fire. But fire officials say getting to the winter months doesn't necessarily mean fire season is over.
Think of the Washoe Drive fire, the Collin Ranch fire, Little Valley fire, Peavine fire. I mean, all these fires that were catastrophic, where structures were lost, were late in the season.
Mayberry says as long as conditions remain dry without significant rainfall, we can continue to expect wildfires even in December and January.
Until we get some significant moisture on the ground, the fire threat remains real.
To help prevent wildfires, Mayberry encourages community members to be mindful on red flag days and avoid certain activities that could start fires, like target shooting and off-roading without a spark arrestor.
Once temperatures begin to decrease, we begin to get a sense from our community that fire season is over. And some of that is a little complacency because our residents see that temperature decrease. They assume the fire risk is not as great as it is, when in fact, in some cases, it's even higher because of the condition of the vegetation.
Snow is expected this week in Northern California. Christina Mendez spoke to residents in the Mount Shasta area to find out how they are getting ready for this early dose of winter weather.
Although we have been reporting that snow is arriving soon, some residents aren't as convinced, saying they don't think it will be here for a few more weeks. Regardless of when it comes, residents are saying they usually just wing it and wait to see what the weather brings. Owner of Ace Hardware in Bernie, Darren Kazarowski, can attest to that, as he says people usually wait until last minute to come in to buy snow shovels, pipe insulation, and wet patch.
Just prepare ahead of time, check for leaks. I mean, you know where your leaks are, obviously, from the prior season. So we carry all your wet patch, roof cement, as far as for that goes.
Other people are heeding the weather warnings and stocking up now to do basic prepping for their home.
It's supposed to snow tomorrow. That's what we're expecting. Just make sure everything's covered. Just like that.
Although everyone prepares differently, the one thing people did agree on is they want to see people driving safely during snowy or rainy conditions.
And when it comes to winter weather, officials often rely on something called the Sperry-Pilz Index. It's used to help cities prepare for major storms. Meteorologist Kevin Koskern spoke with its creators.
With improved weather models, the National Weather Service can give more lead time before the storms hit.
They have to make the decision 3, 4, 5 days in advance. So we have to keep that in mind as a service to them.
The more lead time we have, the more information we have ahead of time, the better our response capabilities are going to be.
This is what we should see if the weather plays out the way it's forecast.
National Weather Service meteorologist Steve Piltz and a former power company worker put their heads together and developed a formula for predicting the specific impacts from each storm before the storm hits. The Sperry-Pilz Ice Accumulation Index was groundbreaking.
And so we could begin to brief emergency management officials and say, this looks like this could be an outage that could last 3 to 5 days. If that's the case, then you're going to need to plan volunteers and plan for supplies at shelters that may have to house people who have lost power.
The Sperry-Pilz Ice Accumulation Index, created here in Tulsa, is now used across the country to help city leaders prepare for power outages. Because of it, electric companies can better determine how many linesmen are needed and how long they'll be out in the field.
It's long hours, it's hard work.
Randy Six, a former linesman and now a director for PSO, has been on the front lines of blizzards, tornadoes, hurricanes, and other devastating weather events. He knows how important it is to get the right people at the right time to the target zone.
What kind of challenges did that present for you to have to be out there for those long hours, leaving your family at home for these big events?
My family, it's all they've ever known. They have been supportive. They look at linemen totally different than they look at any other occupation, I would have to say.
When there's a big storm coming, they would probably say, Dad's got to go to work.
Dad's going to work. They know.
And we don't know when he'll be back, but he will be back.
He will be back.
Several viewers captured this meteor passing over western Montana at 6:30 this morning. People from Canada to Utah reported seeing it. The National Weather Service says a sensor designed to see lightning also spotted it. And don't forget, the Leonic meteor shower peaks starting Saturday night through Monday morning. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll learn about how a changing climate is impacting eagle nesting and also migration. And we're going to show you how wet leaves could add an unexpected danger to your morning commute.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have more seasonably cool temperatures on the way in the Northeast today. We'll enjoy a lot of sunshine, but temperatures will stay in the 40s. Let's take you through the afternoon. There will be some more clouds moving into New York from the Adirondacks back to Buffalo and Syracuse, perhaps. This is 1 o'clock with a lot of sunshine throughout New England here. Now, that storm system misses us off to the south. An ocean storm backs in on us for Friday. Our greatest chance for getting some showers will be in New Hampshire and Maine with some gusty winds.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. We're nice and dry for your Wednesday. High pressure develops overhead, but not far long later, we're talking about the next front approaching. This system will bring good chances of rain all across the Appalachia region, all the way through the mid-Atlantic states, and that'll be mainly on Thursday. But temperatures will be chilly to start. We'll get into the 50s for your Wednesday high, but again on Thursday, we're going to be talking about still lingering cooler temperatures, but the rain will move in soon after.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl, getting a good signature of that wedging effect over the Appalachian Mountains. Asheville, Raleigh, we're seeing significantly different temperatures for your afternoon highs compared to the rest of the area. Upper 60s in the northern part of our area, low 60s in Memphis. And then we have the 80s where that frontal boundary has not passed just yet in South Florida. Now that frontal boundary is making its way across the area. Isolated showers to be expected throughout the rest of your Thursday into your overnight Friday.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A rare tornado in Oregon. Videos show it busting through windows, shoving dumpsters, damaging garage doors, and zapping power. The National Weather Service confirms the EF0 touched down Monday night in the Rockaway Beach community west of Portland. The path about a quarter-mile long, peak winds around 85 miles per hour. It likely started as a waterspout and moved ashore.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
Well, one of the reasons wildfires have been a major problem recently is that drought conditions are happening while dry leaves are on the ground. It's just one of the many problems falling leaves can cause. Meteorologist Dante Ricky has more.
Well, with the fall season past its peak, many of the leaves have now come down from the trees. And with that very dry pattern that's been extended through much of the country, those leaves can create a fire hazard because of how fine that fuel can be as it falls to the ground. But other things can create issues, especially when you haven't had a good significant rainfall in a long time. Those wet leaves, they can lead to some slick travel conditions on the roadways, often causing your car and tires to lose traction, and they can even clog those storm drains, blocking them and keeping the water or the runoff from being able to drain properly. That can be a localized flooding issue. It's important when you're driving during wet conditions in the fall season to increase your stopping distance. At 40 miles an hour, a car should be able to stop reasonably within about 80 feet. Unfortunately, though, on a wet road, especially with the extra oils that can come up after not having an inch or more of rain for such a long time. That distance increases to 160 feet. And with wet leaves, reducing traction, that can be even higher at times. So driving conditions, a definite problem as you head into these very soggy periods, especially during a drought and in the fall season.
Climate change is impacting Earth in many different ways. Researchers in Oregon are working to tally the total cost climate change is having financially. Meteorologist Allison Guttleburr has more.
Heat waves, wildfires, sea level rise, air quality, all climate change events that are being analyzed by 5 Oregonians. Keaton Miller is a professor at the University of Oregon and part of the group. He says the goal is to sort through and process the information to find what's most applicable.
Some of these other things that are less visible but still impactful. And I think a really great example of that is the cost of smoke. It's some of it is direct, some of it is buying, air purifiers, which a lot of my friends have done. A lot of classrooms at the university that I work at now have, air purifiers in them.
Miller says there are other costs that you might not think of.
Things like lost wages, right? You have to stay home because your kids can't go to school because there's too much smoke or something like that. You can't work a day or you're feeling bad yourself, or you're working outdoors and your work site is closed because the smoke is too bad.
He says those costs impact the bottom line for families, businesses, and local governments right now. According to the report, the economic cost of wildfire smoke is $450 per household. That data comes from a study published in Nature, the scientific publication.
Many island communities along the Great Lakes are only accessible by ferry. But how do these boats operate during the frigid winter months? Let's turn to Green Bay meteorologist Phil DeCastro to find out.
Hoyt Carrington runs the Washington Island Ferry Line. It's been in his family since 1940. The full fleet is 5 boats, but only 2 run through the winter, the Madonna and the Arnie J. Richter. The 2 largest and newest ferries in their fleet, both were also engineered and designed to break ice. It's a huge boon for their operations. They rarely need Coast Guard icebreaking assistance as a result. And it's not just the ice in the water that's a hazard. Ice building up from freezing spray can really cause problems.
We haul the most precious cargo there is, so slippery decks, even though we use several products and try to stay ahead of it, there are want to limit risk.
And there's a lot more than just lake ice that captains have to deal with.
Everything. Fog, wind, snow, rain, all types of weather.
Captain Eric Foss has been with the ferry line since he was in high school in 1980. He started as a deckhand and has been a captain since 1987. He says there's very little the boats can't handle on open water, but in close to the shore is where the weather can really disrupt operations.
Docking is the most important thing. You got to pay a lot of attention because between the waves, the wind, and the current, they're going to dictate where the boat goes, so you got to be careful of that.
Once they're in open water, they use a combination of radar and GPS tracking to stay on course when visibility is low, and it can be very low.
It's like being in a kaleidoscope because a lot of times the boat has relative motion. The snow is flying another way and the current might be pushing the ice another way.
Even with the extreme wind and waves that the ferry can experience crossing Death's Door, they estimate they only miss about 10 trips every single year. It's less than 1% of their total crossings. It's a testament to the will and dedication of the crew and captains and their responsibility to an island that depends on them.
There's a program where citizens can monitor bald eagle nests and watch as the family grows. Eric Peterson gives us an inside look at the program and how bald eagle populations are adapting to a changing climate.
That nest is absolutely huge. That nest, just looking at it, is probably 7 to 10 feet deep. And also probably just that far across as well. So it's a very impressive nest and very easy to see when driving by.
Logan Lizzie says the site is part of the Bald Eagle Nest Watch. He says the season in our area typically begins in mid-February and runs until the birds are able to fly.
Once a week, they spend about 1 or 2 hours with that nest, and they're watching for any behaviors from the bald eagles visiting the nests. They're looking for how long they're spending there, what exactly they're doing. They're trying to see if they're doing anything like incubating an egg. Has an egg hatched? Do they see young in the nest?
Tracking trends in the eagle abundance is vital.
We know that eagles had a really hard time, really got down in population, but now to see how they're reacting, our environment's changing a lot, and to see how with their numbers going up, with young in the nest, how are they spreading out, how are their territories changing?
And in De Pere, the Brown County Fairgrounds is home to another nest. Coordinator Logan Lizzie says this popular site is also a story of success.
Last year, unfortunately, that nest fell apart, but really cool. We've actually been seeing the eagles are back and they're fixing that nest. They're putting it back together. And again, it's just one of those stories where we get to see how these animals take something like a nest failure and they rebound. They come back, they build, and hopefully we'll be seeing some more eaglets in that nest.
For more weather content, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. And time now for a short break, but first we soar over beautiful Laguna Beach, California.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. Rain across the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, slowly moving its way out to the east for the day today, but a lot of sunshine out across the plains. Let's dive into the high temperatures today. We've got a few 60s on the map, but a lot of us only warming into the 50s, and even 49 for the high there up in Green Bay. Dry for a lot of the Midwest tomorrow. A few lingering light showers out towards the Ohio Valley, and then some snow in the northern plains Saturday.
Good Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Forecast across the region. Beautiful day. It's cool and crisp this morning. It's going to be a nice day in the 60s to the north, low to mid 70s down to the south and along the Gulf Coast. Plenty of sunshine all around. Friday, more of the same. Another cool start in many locations. And then the afternoons, very nice, mild 60s and 70s.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Thursday morning, too. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out in the Pacific Northwest, things are finally trying to dry out. Thursday will be a transition day between the wild Wednesday we had in Seattle and Portland and the quieter Friday to come and wrap up the work and school week. Back into the 80s in Phoenix, we've got this big weather maker pushing into the Sierra Nevada. It will be snowy near Tahoe as we head into our Thursday afternoon. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
If you love extreme weather and cold, you need to check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. It's all about working and living at a location that is said to have the worst weather in the world.
Imagine yourself standing atop a windswept peak, battling howling gusts that exceed 100 miles an hour.
Visibility vanishes as a fierce storm rolls in, engulfing you in a world of white. You're not scaling the treacherous heights of Mount Everest, but rather standing on the summit of Mount Washington, a 6,288-foot peak in the White Mountains of New Hampshire that has earned a notorious reputation as having the world's worst weather.
You feel like you're on a lunar surface up there. It's the strangest feeling. You feel like you're on a different planet.
Join us as we go off the radar with former Mount Washington weather observer Charlie Lopresti to explore the spot where future meteorologists are inspired, where weather records are shattered, and where nature continues to teach us about the raw power of our atmosphere.
Episodes of Off the Radar drop every Tuesday. Find it anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.